Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of Video Game Development. And in this episode, we're going to be looking a lot more into what the future of our video game is actually going to look like, and where we want to go with our game, and what kind of game we're actually making. Because at this point, I'm just launching into Unity here, by the way. But anyways, at this point, we kind of have the basics of game mechanics in like our game here, but we sort of need to determine where we want to go with our game, because for different people, obviously it's going to be different. Maybe some want to make a coin collecting game, and maybe some want to make a first-person shooter, or all sorts of different things, right? And so I'm going to start to cover the basics of probably what you're going to need in most of those games, but I'm not going to be able to teach you every single thing about every single type of game that you want to make. So there'll be some basic things that we can cover, of course, like, for example, we can cover a coin collection if you want to have some sort of coin system. In this episode, we'll talk a lot about different UI and how to implement UI into your game, which stands for user interface, by the way. And in the future, maybe we can talk about different sorts of shooting mechanics if you want to make a first-person shooter game, or we can talk about all sorts of different things as well. But we'll have to figure out what it is that we actually want to do going in the future here. So the first thing that we're going to start with in this episode is starting to get like a UI in your game so that you have some sort of way to view information. So that could be like an inventory system or an item counter system, maybe in the corner here or whatever, right? Because right now if we play a game, we can run around with our player. We don't really have anything other than running around with our player. We might want to add something maybe in the corner here, or like a username or something like that. So the first thing that we've got to do is go over to our hierarchy here, just leave in play mode, and right click and scroll down to right where it says UI here, and we're just going to let's create some text. In this example, you can see it pulls up what's called a canvas here, a text, and an event system. So this canvas, if you scroll out, you can see this big thing appears in the world. If we just hit 2D mode, it's going to snap to 2D mode, and this is going to be our canvas of everything that will be on our screen. So this is basically what our screen will look like. So right now, you can see I have this text box down in the corner, but it's not even on the screen. So I'm just going to click and drag that to the center, or anywhere I want on the window, and we can just snap this text box to the center right here by setting the position to 0 and 0. And we can center our text if we want by centering it here and centering it here, and we can call this whatever we want. Example. And so playing around with this sort of UI system, we can put any sort of different UI on our screen depending on what it is that we want, and then later on we can interact with that UI in our code, and that way you can have different settings and menus and anything like that. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic coin system. So we have a coin, and when we touch the coin, it's going to pick up, it's going to play a sound, and it's going to say our coin counter is increased by 1. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and click in the corner here so that it sets our anchor point to the corner. And then I'm going to set the position of this somewhere around here. I'm going to say -25 and maybe 90, something like that. That looks good. I'm going to set this to go back like this, and I'm just going to call this coins:0. So it's like our coin counter. And then we can play around, maybe make it bold, maybe we want to scale it up a little bit. And if you scale it up too large, it's going to go off. That's because our text box here is too small. So I'm going to do something like this. Yeah, let's see how that looks. If we play the game now, we'll have the coins in the corner, and we can see what that looks like. Yeah, so that looks pretty good to me. Maybe it's a little bit blurry, so we can see if we can try to fix that by scaling down our text. So right here we have our scale, it's set to 111. If we bump up our font size to something like this, and then we scale down our scale by pressing this button here and grabbing this box in the middle and just dragging down, it's going to keep the quality of the text higher, but shrink the actual size of it. And then I'm just going to place that in the corner again by clicking this little guy right here and moving it into our corner back to -25. Let's try 130. Yeah, there, that looks good. And so there, now we have our UI for something that we're satisfied and we think looks good. And if you want any other UI, maybe you want a little cursor in the center of your screen and stuff, you can just right-click the canvas here, right-click, and then under UI, there's all these different things that you can add and play around with to just build up your UI here. The first thing that we're going to need is an actual coin, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly save here and launch into Blender and just quickly model a 3D coin. I'm going to just start a new world here, or a new Blender file, and I'm going to delete everything. And I'm going to start by spawning in a cylinder. And this cylinder has 32. I'm going to set it down to something like 9, and I'm going to scale it down on the z-axis. I'm going to drag it up here and rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees. And yeah, that looks pretty much like a coin to me. Maybe I'll scale it down on the y-axis a little. I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm just going to select both of these faces by holding shift and press E to extrude. And then just select one, scale it down to 0.85. Yeah, something like that looks good. S 0.85. And then I'm going to select them both, press E again, and scale them on the y-axis inwards a little bit, so we give it that sort of, just that sort of little bump here. So that looks pretty much like the kind of coin that I want in my game. And so I'm just going to quickly add a nice color to it, set this color to coin, and maybe give that a nice yellowish color, or maybe even a tint of orange, something like that. And yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this as an FBX, and I'm just going to save it in this file right here, export FBX, and I don't really need to ever edit this again, so I'm not going to save it, but you might want to save. We'll close this, and then I'm going to go and find that folder, and I'm just going to drag my coin file into my world. And then with my coin in my assets here, I'm going to go back into 3D mode and just drag this coin into my world here. And here we have our coin. You can see this is what it looks like. And then the other thing that I'm going to add into our world is a sound effect that we can attach to this. So I will put a link in the description or this file, and you can bring that into your world here. Now we're going to want to start doing some code. First, that will make a coin spin. Also, that will play a sound when we touch it, and that will add up numbers to our coin counter. If we right-click on, or just click on this coin, we're going to first add a box collider so that it has this little box around it, and then we're going to click this little checkbox right here that says is trigger. So that means when the player collides with it, it's going to activate the trigger, which is in our code. Alright, so what I've got here is this coin script that you can download. Simply has a few things right here. So it's got the every update, it's going to add a little bit rotation to the object that the script is on, so that will spin our coin. And it says when something enters the trigger, or the collider of the box, then it's going to send our player a message that's titled coin, and then destroy this coin object. So I added a little bit of change to our player script as well, and you'll either have to re-download this script, or you can simply add in the components of code if you want to add coins into your game. But you can see starting off at the very top we have using Unity engine.ui, because now we're referencing the UI as well. Then down here we have a bunch of new things that we added as public references. So we have the audio clip for the sound and the source file for the sound. We have the text for the coin, and we have a float for how many coins that we have. In our start method here, we're just making sure that our coin source sound will always be the audio sound, just to double check in case something goes wrong with this line here. And if you scroll to the bottom of our update function here, we have coin text update. So it's always going to set our coin text to say coins plus our value of coins here. And then if we receive the message, public void means when we can receive the message from this coin, or from this coin script, it says player player.sendMessageCoin, and this is referencing the game object of our player. So we can say when we send the player the message that says coin, our player will say when it receives the message that says coin, it's going to play the source sound of our coin, and it will add one to our coin counter. So then this sees that we've added one, and it will update our coin script, and it will count how many coins we have in our game. So if we jump back into Unity here and just click on our coin, we can simply drag in the coin script onto our coin just like this. And you can see the first reference that we need is our player, so we can drag our player right there. Our sound effect will now be as a part of our player. So you can see it has the coin sound and the coin text, so we can reference our coin text, which is this text that we made, so we can simply rename that to coin counter or something like that. And if we go onto our player, we can just drag this text into our coin counter text. So what we need to do is go to audio, and we need to create a new audio source like so, and then on this audio source we can drag in our coin sound. And now if we drag this on there, I believe that should hopefully work. Now let's try this. Yeah, so when we start the game, it played the sound, and when we collect the coin, our coin counter goes up by 1, and it plays our sound as well. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we disable play on awake, so it doesn't play our coin sound when we start, and then we can just collapse that. And with our player script here, now this has reference to all the different things and will always tell us the current amount of coins that we want. So we can take this coin and create it into a prefab by just dragging it and pulling it onto here. And now you can see we have our coin, which is our original object, and we have our coin prefab, which saves all of the information except for our player. So something that we may want to do is have our coin always reference our player, and we can do that by getting it to find the game object. So if we just go into void update here, I can add our script so that when you have it, you won't have this problem. If I just paste this new start command in here, we can have player, so the game object player, equals the specific game object dot find whatever it is named. So I have it named to main player right here, and in our world we just have it named to player. So I'm going to update this code and make sure that it just says player. So now what's going to happen is our player object is always going to equal the game object dot find our player. So now if I say that and go back into Unity, what will happen is this coin prefab that we have will always find our player regardless of it, whether it's there or not. So this coin, you can see we've specified the player, but if we delete it and play the game, we can see this right here, this little box is going to update with our player automatically because it has found our game object named player. So if we reference it, it will still work just fine. And now that means we can drag these coins in wherever we want and just duplicate them a ton of times. Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V, and paste them everywhere. Now those coins should be able to collect and interact with your UI here. So pick up, and pick up. And that gives your game a little bit of enjoyable content and interactable UI. The only big important thing that you should be able to get out of this lesson is how to interact with UI. So when you're scripting, you always need to make sure that you remember that you're using unityengine.ui. You can reference your public text by putting in a script like this at the beginning that just says public text and then called whatever you want. And then later you can specify your coin text dot your text to equal anything that you want. So right here we're just saying we want it to say coins, but if I wanted, I could make it say David's coins and save that. So now when we play the game, it's going to take this little text box that's in the corner here, and rather than saying coins equals 1, it's going to say David's coins equals 1. And that's the big thing that you want to get out of this episode, is how to be able to interact with your UI through code. If you can do that, that would be super awesome, and you can make it say whatever you want, and you can customize your game just for you. You can do whatever you want with your UI. You can play around with it, and you can just have an awesome time using your UI. So I hope that worked out for you. I hope you're able to follow along with this tutorial and maybe get something else out of it. And if you want, you can continue to build up your world just by spawning in or dragging in different types of mesh from Blender and stuff, just like we did with this coin. And yeah, good luck with that, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll hope to see you in the next episode.